Next, we're going to talk about tensions. The way tensions are actually applied on the machine, and as well as diagnosing common problems caused by tensioning. The common problems caused by tensioning is either the top thread is too tight, or my under thread, which is my bobbin, is too tight or too loose. If we don't have balanced thread tensioning between top and bottom, we'll have a myriad of problems. We'll have looping of stitches on top of our embroidery, or we'll have a sawtooth edge to our satin stitches, which we'll see in a minute. Now, when considering how this machine actually sews, we actually make lock stitches. Lock stitches are interlocks of stitches just like this, and they keep making interlocks, okay? If my bobbin tension is too tight, it causes an imbalance of tension on the top, making my thread race downwards, covering the back of any letter that I'm sewing. If you look at the back of any given satin stitch, whether it be a letter or a border of an object, you will see there should be a column of bobbin thread behind our satin stitches on the back of the design. What we want to accomplish is a complete balance, and that's the way we do that is on the back of a design we'll have two sections on either side, which are going to be our color thread and then our bobbin thread lining up in between. Now, when adjusting our bobbin, we want to do what's called the H test, and your machine will have this already preloaded. This H test will sew it'll sew 15 H's, one for every needle that we have on our machine. And by looking at the rear of the H test, we can discern how our bobbin and upper thread tensions are. We have sewn out 3 different H tests on this machine, and we messed up the tensionings to simulate with the process how you're going to discern how your tensions look. In this first example, this is the rear of the H test, and we can see that we have color stitching on both sides of the bobbin fill here, okay? What we want to do is we want to accomplish a proper third color. A third of the back of this fill will be bobbin, and then the following will be a third. That's the third mentioned in training that you're going to learn. On this one here, we can see that we have more color thread than we have bobbin. In this instance, what we notice from this is that the top color tensioning is too loose. When the top is too loose, we can see a filling of the back of the design covering up more of our bobbin line. On this H over here, which is needle number 14, we can see that we simulated a loosening of the bobbin tension, okay? The upper thread tension was correct, but the bobbin was too loose, and it started filling the back of the design, so we start seeing less and less color thread behind our design. We can see that we have a consistency of the same issue between every H. On this one here, we see rather minimum bobbin behind our H test. This will tell you that there's only one component that needs to be adjusted that affects all needle colors. On this one here, we can tell that our bobbin is way too tight. If the bobbin is way too tight, then the color is going to race downward, filling in the back of the design. And we can see, because our bobbin is tight, every H on the back of this H test has minimum bobbin showing. So the simple method is we would adjust our bobbin tension on this one. Our next one over here, and I'll just move this over so you can see it better. We have some bobbin that's hidden. We can't really see it on this H test. On this one here, we see no bobbin between the pink color or in the orange, okay? And then up here, we start to see a little bit more where we have bobbin showing here. Now, the white is never a good thread to sew out because you can't tell which is upper thread and which bobbin thread. On this one here, I would suggest that even though we show a varying degree of bobbin showing, most of your problem is actually on the bobbin thread on this one here. We have too tight of a bobbin tension, and it's filling in the back of a design through the majority of our H's back here. Now we'll go to another H test right here. This is synonymous to an issue where the problem is not bobbin, because we can see we have adequate bobbin on this H, as well as the orange, and as well as this orange. But in other H's, we can see either too much bobbin or too little bobbin, just like on this H. This would tell me that my needles or my upper thread tension need to be adjusted. For instance, on this green, where we see little bobbin, I want to actually tighten my tension so I pull more bobbin up behind the design. On this H here, I need to loosen my upper thread tension so I fill in the back of that H much better to try to achieve a look like this orange. To adjust your bobbin tension, you want to pull your bobbin out of the machine, and what I want to do is, let's go ahead and put a bobbin into it, okay? Our bobbin thread, what we want to see is the bobbin thread is fed over from the left-hand side of the bobbin across the top to going to right. That's how it gets inserted into the bobbin holder. When we do that, we put the thread through the little slit here, and let me see if I can get you to see that better, okay? And then it's going to go around and underneath this tension spring, just like that. Now when we pull the bobbin thread, the bobbin holder should spin clockwise, just like that. If it's spinning counterclockwise, you have it in backwards, and it's going to change your tension. Now, what we want to try to achieve is a degree of tension on this bobbin thread. How much is allowed to advance during sew? And to do that, we do what's called the drop test. What we do is we take a marker right where the thread comes out of that clip spring. We're going to make a little mark. Okay, what we're doing is coloring the thread. We hold the thread in our hands, just like this, okay? And by dropping your shoulder, not your wrist, you do a drop test. Now you see how much thread came out of that clip spring between the mark we made and what's here. This is too much, this is too loose of a tension. So what we want to do is take a small screwdriver and right at the base of the clip spring is this little tension adjustment screw. I'm going to turn it a little bit. A little bit is a lot of tension actually. Once we turn it, we increase the tension on it. So now we'll make another mark. And we'll do another drop test. And we want to see is about 1 inch to 1.5 inches drop between that mark and where it stopped at. This is perfect bobbin tension. Now one of the things that changes the bobbin tension on us over time is actually the bobbin case itself gets dirty. Okay, you got to remember, our machine is sewing at 750, 850 stitches per minute, probably 1,000. Well, the dust that collects around this object is actually going to start to turn into a gluey substance. And it starts collecting underneath this tension spring here. Try to get yourself in the habit that every time you change out bobbin, that you clean the bobbin case. Now what we want to do, we want to clean out underneath this spring, and the best way to do that is with a business card. Just slide the business card underneath of it and pull towards you. This will remove any dust that's collecting underneath this, pushing that spring up. The other part we want to clean out is on the inside, okay? There's a little spring inside this bobbin holder. We're just going to pull that out. And then what you want to do is either with a spray, a can of air, or maybe a small little brush, you can actually clean the dust that populates on the inside of this bobbin holder. Okay, and I'll just use my finger to clean it out. And then we'll put the spring back in. Pop it down, there's little tabs on each side. And then again, we'll put our bobbin in. Goes down the slot, around the clip spring, and we're done with bobbin tension. When you're doing the drop test, it's important not to drop your wrist, because when you drop your wrist, the bobbin will fall out of the bobbin holder. Okay, you start to see it start coming out. If I just drop my shoulder, I get a proper response from it. Now on the back of our H test, we've seen in that one sample where we had a myriad of different issues going on, where we could pretty much understand that our tension adjustments needs to be on the top thread. We have a little tension knob for needle number 1. We also have a large one. And the way these work, majority of my tension's being held by the smaller tension knob, okay? This tension knob has a smaller spring. The smaller the spring, the much more compression against the thread I have. The larger the spring, or on the larger knob, the less of a tensioning adjustment I have, okay? So primarily, if my tensions on the back of my H-test show far off, I'm going to first adjust the small one. If I'm showing too little bobbin behind my H-test, then I'm going to tighten the little tension knob. I'm going to tighten it one whole turn, and I'm going to tighten the large tension knob a whole turn, maybe even a turn and a half, okay? Because this one has less tensioning applied to the thread than this one does. But you never want to just tension one knob only. We want to provide a balance of tension in between the two knobs. If you turn this one, you must turn this one as well. If you just turn this one, that means you're close to the third, and you're just fine-tuning it, okay? And then once you have that, you adjust it as you need to. If you need to loosen the tension, you turn the knob to the left, and then turn this one to the left. And then sew out your H-test again until you get close to the third. Don't spend all day trying to get a third. If you're real close, then you'll be fine for embroidery.